Hello and welcome to another jungle tutorial on this Gameplay Monday. And in this matchup video we're going to be looking at Graves vs Taliyah, a strong meta matchup but also accessible, with Graves having that nice fluidity and high skill cap if you become really proficient at him, but also being usable in the lower MMRs. Taliyah has a higher skill cap overall, but if you can really learn to use her pressure, especially early game, as well as her insane combo, she can be a hard carry for you as well. So this video is going to be focused on the momentum of the early to mid game phase and how as a jungler, even if you're having a rough time early, how you can switch that momentum around to actually channel a comeback for your team, and really focusing on using that momentum to propel a victory. So before we get into the meat of the video, I just want to announce that we are doing a giveaway with some other YouTubers for an ASIO keyboard, mouse, and mousepad for those of you looking for an upgrade. It does ship worldwide, so don't worry about that. You have multiple ways to enter, so enter as many times as you'd like, and of course you can maximize your chances by doing all of them. It runs for 2 weeks, so best of luck to those of you who enter. Right, now let's begin with the first clear. You'll notice that the Graves starts as blue buff, as does the Taliyah. Junglers who started in the same buffs on the upper side of the map usually leads to some kind of interaction or at least close call in the early game. Notice how the Graves goes from blue to Grump to Wolves, as does the Taliyah. Now the Taliyah moves straight up towards her red, not even going for the bottom side scuttle. Her team does have it warded, but I guess she feels it's a little risky considering Graves might be able to beat her on a 1v1 and she won't have the mid lane priority, so it's more a ward just for information. And given that he hasn't shown up by the time she's finished clearing Grump and Wolves, she anticipates he might be going for a red buff invade and so decides to head over there. Now notice how Graves and Taliyah both drag their wolf camps in the direction they want to go. Grave wants to head to the topside river for scuttle, so he pulls the wolves there. Taliyah wants to go to red buff, so she pulls the wolves into the lane, reducing the travel time between buffs while clearing. You always want to make sure that you're efficient in the jungle. Now Graves goes for the scuttle and Taliyah goes for the red buff. The risky thing here for Taliyah is that she's gonna get quite low and she's still only level 2. She'll only ding level 3 once she finishes the red buff. Now she gets quite low and Graves is going on that invade warpath, and she's actually only saved by the fact that Orianna is losing to that wonderfully balanced champion Aatrox, and so Graves immediately rotates to try and save her and get a gank off of his own. He chunks the Aatrox down, but by this stage Taliyah's finished her red buff and she's moved over to the raptors. She knows he's going to try and invade that, so she waits in the raptor bush, and despite trying to full combo and smite the big raptor, she actually smites way too early and Graves smites it away from her. She tried to anticipate Graves smiting early to beat the burst and it backfired. It's better to sort of react as you see the HP on the monster. It got a bit away from her there. Now there's a little bit of mind games going on. Graves hasn't taken his red buff yet and knows Taliyah's going to be moving down to that side of the map, so he just crosses straight in front of the mid lane even though he knows the other team will see him. I don't think he's too concerned if she invades given the lane priority situation, as well as the fact that he can dodge her combo and so on. Now Graves probably also assumes that the other scuttle crab is already done and he just wants to secure his own jungle camps. However, Taliyah actually just moved straight down to the bottom lane to try get a gank off, but the enemy was attuned to her location and reacted accordingly, so she simply falls back to take the scuttle before going back to base, whereas Graves can now easily take his red buff, take the Krogs and relax a little bit, knowing that counter pressure will probably be off the map as she won't have anything left on that side of the map to stick around for. So aside from Graves stealing that raptor on the top side, they've had remarkably similar early games, just a little bit mirrored. Yes, Taliyah's got that gank off and she's got him back already, but she's at the Krogs as he's finishing his Krogs. And now of course he can try and do a gank on the bottom lane, knowing that it's most probable, most likely that she has gone back and she'll be clearing the top side of the map, because he would have checked her CS when they met at the scuttle camp and he can easily extrapolate how many camps she would have done, and that's not too difficult to keep track of. Now this is where there's a great sense of timing. Yeah, Graves has gone up to try and cut off the Jhin who was low going back, but at the same time, if Taliyah started blue and went to Grump, he knows that approximately this point in the game that 2:30 spawn timer will go off and the Grump will be up. So if Jhin isn't there, he can at least leave a Ghost Pourer in the tri-bush, which is an excellent vision indicator, and take the Grump away, which is a nice hefty chunk of XP that she'll now be denied. And coincidentally, he's taking it as she's taking a Wolves, so it was a really good proactive decision for him to go chase up the Jhin just in case he could get something, but if not, at least he gets to counter jungle a little bit. So you can definitely say that Graves has the jungle momentum at the moment. He is directing her pathing as well as controlling the flow of the game within that 1v1 matchup. So after going back, Graves immediately heads to the top side of his jungle because, well, he cleared the bottom side. The Rift Scuttle is going to be spawning there. And Taliyah, of course, doesn't have her Grump up anymore. She's just taking Wolf, so she's also going to be on that side. Now, Graves does hop over the plan to try and look for a gank top that is warded, so the red team does see him. But she thinks again about going towards him, because if Urgot's pushing up that little bit and he roams down, Urgot's a power pick at the moment, she doesn't want to get caught in a 2v1 in the Scuttle Crab area, so she's just going to give up that Scuttle Crab, go back to a bottom side part of the jungle and look to gank in the mid lane, get that Aatrox going a little bit. But because she doesn't have absolute vision of the Graves, it's not possible for her to fully track him. So Aatrox is flash engaged, he's going all in, he wants to kill the Orianna. Taliyah tries to come in and help, but she whiffs on her spells. It's in the middle of a minion wave, which means that's horrible for your Q, especially if you're looking for that follow-up damage. Orianna uses her speed up to move around nicely, and then Graves is right there. He's just on the top scuttle, and he can immediately counter gank. She's taken a tower shot, and he just simply chases her down. Now Taliyah would have gotten out, but the problem is she actually turns back in thinking the Aatrox is going to kill him, and perhaps she can pick up a cheeky assist. However, that's a mistake, because now Graves can flash Q, and that's it. Mindlessly giving up first blood to the Graves there, not very good. And even though it looks like Graves is in a little bit of a predicament, he can simply move through the jungle using his E, head to the tower and get executed. Taliyah would not have spawned in time, and she didn't spawn in time, so there's no risk involved at all for him, and that's actually really nicely done. However, it does take him off the map, which relieves a little bit of the pressure on the enemy jungler. So what can she do with that? Well, the answer initially is not too much. She just wants to get control of her buff. She takes the blue, heads straight to the red, takes the Krugs, while the Graves is headed back to his bottom side, taking his Krugs and Raptors, and now looks to invade and get deep vision against Taliyah because of course she has that big wall with a long range. However, the Pyke and the Jhin on Taliyah's team have kind of cut him off a little bit and denied that, while Taliyah has ulted on the top side and managed to get a kill on the Urgot, which is great for her. It uses her ult off the map and gives Fiora a bit of relief from the pressure. And now because her bot lane has revealed Graves trying to invade and getting that vision, she knows she can easily fall back down and take his blue and Gromp. While Graves, now knowing that he has a 3-man advantage versus 2 on the bottom side, will go back in and take her Gromp and Wolves. So 2 camp for 2 camp trade, except she actually ended up with a kill. So for the next few minutes, the mind games continue with the farming and map movement between the junglers, trying to get ganks off, trying to get involved as best they can, while of course trying to read each other and understand where the other one is. And remember, we said it seems to be that the Graves has the momentum. He's dictating the jungler's pathing with his faster early clear as well as his vision control. And now Taliyah is about to go back on the side of the mid lane. She was looking for a counter gank, trying to bait something in. However, it doesn't work out for her. She briefly reveals herself from the lane minion so Graves knows where she is. She misses her W on the Graves, even though it was well set up. And because they have a Shen support on the blue team, Orianna is saved by his ult, and she immediately goes straight into the Taliyah as Shen comes through and he taunts her, and that's the end of it. So it was a little bit of a clumsy move. She couldn't have predicted, of course, that kind of triple collapse on her, but at the same time, you have to be aware that they have a Shen with a global ultimate, and if you're going to set a trap for the enemy jungler, it's important you actually hit your full combo, and don't give away your position by being a little bit impatient like she was. So now the momentum swings even more in Graves' favor. He's got more gold, he's got more kills, he has had more impact. Now again, you have to consider what the enemy jungle is doing, especially a Graves who can stay out a long time and remain healthy with his clear. She respawns, moves down to the bottom side of the map, uses her ult to get into the fight between Aatrox and Orianna, but doesn't consider where Graves is. She gets hit by the Orianna W for some damage, Graves hops over the wall, and there's nothing at all that she can do. She gets caught in that full combo, and once again, she's off the map. She's been off the map so much in the last few minutes, and it's really swung the momentum of the game in the other team's favor. So the question is, at this point, how do you as a jungler get back the momentum for your team as well as get yourself back in the game? You need Graves to be off the map for a few minutes so that you can recalibrate, catch up, and so on. But before we look at her comeback and how she reverses the momentum, just 2 quick things here. Graves, a few minutes later, is clearing a pink ward in the river and going towards an invade on her red buff. Taliyah immediately notices this and goes straight across the mid lane. Doesn't matter that she's in vision. Why? Because she has Fiora pushing the Urgot on the top side and has that priority. Graves leaves a pink ward down as he's going back. He doesn't waste time. He goes into the side bush, he goes back and he leaves a pink right there. Of course, you can ward while going back and it doesn't interrupt it. That's a great pink ward for junglers. A lot of low MMR junglers will just not check that bush and they'll walk by it many times, giving you tons of information. And even in this situation, it gives Graves' team information on where she is. Even if they kind of knew it, it's better to have that visual confirmation from which to make your next decisions, which of course is the following. Now at this point, you can imagine Taliyah is getting quite frustrated, not being able to have the impact she wants because the combo of Graves, Orianna, and Shen could be on her face at any moment, and that's basically a risky proposition. So in this situation, Graves goes back from his invade and immediately heads back to the top side of the map. After taking his wolves, he goes into the river to place a ward. She in turn places her own ward. And now, instead of just giving it up, knowing that the Aatrox is pushed back a little bit, and the fact that her Fiora is going back to base, she actually starts to fight over the vision control, trying to kill his ward while he kills hers. She takes a horribly risky path trying to poke out, clear the vision, and the map is quite dark for them. Well, guess what? She gets caught and she dies again. This is a horribly one-sided momentum-based game. Even if she's made the right decisions a lot of the time with regards to her safe farming, she's tilted a little bit and she's being a bit too aggressive trying to force the action instead of letting the flow of the game come to her and being a bit more patient. But don't worry. All you need to get back in the swing of things is one kill, one shutdown, a little bit of momentum swing in your favor, get that confidence back. And that happens in the form of Aatrox doing what he does against the Orianna, and even though Shen's ulting through, she manages to burn Orianna's flash, and Taliyah snags herself a kill, finally getting herself on the map and getting a little bit of that pressure release in the mid lane. Because now that she will have that pressure release in the mid lane, Graves won't be able to sort of invade with impunity and do whatever he wants. Now Graves knows that Aatrox will have that control and there's not much else he can do, so he sneaks into the Dragon Pit to start doing that. Of course, if you sneak in from the back, you won't have that detection, so they won't know you're actually doing it. And in the case of Taliyah, she's spotted on Graves' minimap going towards the top side, which makes it even more safe. So now we have a counterbalance approach here. Because of that mid lane release in both sides, the junglers can attack each side of the map without worrying too much about rotations. Taliyah goes top, burns the Urgot's flash, while Graves instead decides to go on the bottom side, and this is where his greed and overconfidence, because of his strong early game, gets the better of him and allows Taliyah even more of a window. Step 1 was picking up a kill where you can, step 2 is applying a bit more pressure, and step 3 is counteracting an enemy's mistake. That's 100% what gets momentum in your favor, because it snowballs their own frustration with their own errors. So while Graves is on the bottom side, Taliyah just said, well, I'm gonna do the Rift Herald. I can stack my Q all around the river, no one's coming, it's free for me. Graves is on the bottom side versus Jhin and a Pyke. They don't manage to kill the Jhin, they dance in between two towers. Jhin opens up his ultimate, Pyke lands a hook, and good night Graves. So now that he's off the map and there's no one in the mid lane, Taliyah immediately goes with the Rift Herald and activates it. It's probably a little too soon to do so, but given that the mid tower is kind of low, she should be able to get it in the end. Also note that Fiora has decided to roam down from the top lane after taking that tower thanks to the Taliyah's gank earlier. So they combine together to take out the Orianna. Taliyah checks the bottom side jungle for the red buff, and Graves, again, he now does the same thing that she did earlier. He doesn't think, hey, what's she doing, where could she be? He just sees Fiora and the fact that he must defend the tower, even though it's one shot. Well, the tower's fallen, and it's still a Fiora, and even though she's out of mana almost, the enemy jungler could be there, which she very well is, and Graves falls again. So he just was off the map for a while. He came back, immediately ran down mid, and now he's off the map again. That's huge pressure release you're giving up for no particular reason. It's okay to lose the first tier mid tower to Rift Herald. If that's all they're gonna get from it without a great big push, then that's okay. You know, you can live with that considering how strong your early game was. So, Graves had a better early game. They took advantage of the Taliyah. They killed her a few times. She took advantage of their mistakes as well as being a little bit patient. She did tilt a little bit, but that patience did pay off, getting 3 quick kills and a tower. This allowed her team now to set a trap in the enemy's jungle in a 5v4 fight, which they managed to kill 3 people. Even though Graves does make a great solo play to take out the Pyke, which reduces the impact of that fight, it's still a huge swing. Ever since that dive in the bottom lane, he's just been killed, his team's been caught out, they've lost towers, they've lost their vision control. It's a huge momentum swing entirely based upon patience from the red team, as well as capitalization on mistakes. So as usual in a high elo game, what do you expect? Well, bronze throws back and forth over and over again, with both junglers being caught out, both teams being caught out, and no real advantages being gained until a Baron is finally taken. And this is why I want to focus on one last play of how you can finally turn that game around and stop all the relentless throwing for no particular reason. And that's making a solo play against the enemy counterpart that you want to zone out. Now you'll notice how Graves' team now has Baron and they're pushing at mid lane. Taliyah's waiting on the side and she sees, thanks to Pyke's positioning, Graves get forced to the top side, separating him from her team. That's exactly what her ult loves to be able to deal with. She uses a wall, he thinks he's gonna get away with his E, she hits the combo and the Zhonya's, and if she hits even half her spells, nothing's really gonna stop that late game damage from Taliyah. Graves has fallen, and that gives the team a huge advantage because you've got that Aatrox in the middle, zoning and absorbing all kinds of damage. From there, they're finally able to push out and end the game, and you can see their relevant KDAs and how it actually ended up being stacked after all the picking and mid-game nonsense. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Both junglers ended up doing a great job on their respective phases of the game. Hopefully able to learn a little bit about Graves' efficiency, pathing, and body language aggression, as well as Taliyah's combos and scaling with her patience. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and comment if you did. We officially have channel memberships activated now, so if you want to support the channel and join the Discord, feel free to click those links in the description. Subscribe for more jungle and League of Legends videos coming soon. And as always, I'll see you all in the next tutorial.